Okay, topic number 2 about interest. You have a question about what I just said about interest?
Yeah. So obviously we now know from modern studies that, you know, inflation occurs, the value of money changes over time. And obviously you're not supposed to charge interest um, to a fellow Jew. But in not charging interest, you are theoretically costing, putting a cost on yourself of lending money. So would it obviously, in the modern context of what we now know about the value of money, would it be would it still go against the teachings that we shouldn't charge interest if we were to charge interest at the rate of which the value of money changes?
That's a very good question. I've never heard that question asked before. I know that I don't believe any exception is made for that. I do see the logic. So, for example, if you would say, I'm lending you £1,000 and I do not want to make money on you. However, we're going to go by that probably, better than I, there are probably certain economic indices
Yeah.
which would show if I lend you £1,000 now and come back to exact payment from you in 2 years' time, we can check the exact value according to based on inflation and nothing else.
Yeah.
Your argument is you should be able to take that because you're not really taking any more.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good question, and the answer seems to be that Jewish law does not make an exception to that.
Mm-hmm.
Question's a good question. I guess the best answer I can come up with as to why it doesn't do that is because once you make too many exceptions, you erode you've got to streamline the law.
Yeah.
A bit like COVID laws when you've got a particular circumstances. The Prime Minister just said, I shouldn't really need to self-isolate because my body is bursting with antibodies and and it's very important for me to go to Parliament. And
Of course. But
the law is the law, and he
yeah.
wants to set an example and say that he kept to the law. Certainly, in general, interest rates are set beyond the level of inflation, and it's designed to that you end up with more money in your pocket, more spending power, and it's described in the Torah as neshech, so the Hebrew word neshech. If you go to Israel and you talk Hebrew, speak Hebrew there, you'll find the word noshech, to bite.
Yeah.
And the Torah itself is hinting that if someone lends you money and you can't quite afford to pay, you're trying to pay it off, and you pay a little bit, but then your debt goes up because of the interest. You pay a bit more and the debt goes up, like consistent credit card. And it's biting at you, it's biting into you.
Yeah.
Just protect the person against that.
Yeah.
So that's interest.
Out of curiosity as well, within Jewish law, obviously, there are different legal systems out there. Obviously lots of Jewish law is based on what has been written down and interpretations of it. But is there any almost sort of mechanism for almost changing law or changing law set based on precedent within, legal interpretations of it?
The answer is 2 or 3-fold. There are 2 or 3 points. One is that in theory, there is. Remember what I told you earlier, that we're no longer self-governing. We really want to be, all the Jewish people in Israel, with a Sanhedrin, that the most knowledgeable, the highest ranking scholars of the generation should be able to form a council of leaders like the parliament, that would be called the Sanhedrin. And most ideally, in an unbroken change from Moses at Mount Sinai, which would mean that the tradition hasn't been tainted because it's a continuous handing over, like a smicha from one generation to the next. If you would have that, then you would be able to legislate and re-legislate. You would be within certain parameters. You would be able to come up with new laws, and you would be able to change things as was necessary.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we're hampered in being unable to do that, as it were, constitutionally. So we have to work within the system. I can tell you an example of the previous thing, by the way, in terms of divorces. We can come to that soon if you want. But
Yeah.
as far as what we're talking about now, which is interest, what was done was, and here you're not really talking about protection of the weak, because the laws of interest are very powerful. They pretty much adequately protect the weak. You're talking about the opposite way around, that you want to protect maybe a weak lender who actually doesn't want to lose out from lending money.
Yeah.
And he somehow make it that he lends money and makes money out of it. The answer is yes, because if you lend me money, and we use the word lend in a loose sense, and you want a return on your money, the return can be in two ways. It can be that I simply pay you money for having borrowed money, right? That's what we call interest. Or it could be that you've invested the money. Good night. Or it could be that I've invested the money, and I give you a return representing the profit that your money made.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
So let's say money was to be lent between two Jewish people, and it stipulated that if you invest in this money, and if you made a return on it, the person who lent the money would get a cut of that. Would that be going against the laws of interest?
No. When the laws of interest are that I'm paying you simply for the privilege of having held your money, and you've had to wait for it. But if I'm giving you back more money because I used your money to invest in certain shares, and the shares went up, they doubled, and so I give you double the money that you invested with me, that would be perfectly in order. But the chap, as we say in the Yiddish word chap, the clever thing that was done was that it can be done, it's often done, that people borrow money in a way which appears to be a straight loan, but they write a document in which it lays out that we are setting out that it's done under certain terms, which effectively convert part of the loan into a profit share agreement, and therefore effectively allow payments which work out the same as if it were an interest arrangement. You have to understand, and a lot of people do this. It's called the heter iska. If you talk to any frum businessman, he knows about it. The majority of them probably do not understand what it is, which is a shame, because one could even argue that if you go into something and you make this document, you don't really know what it is, so you think it's just a hocus pocus which allows you to do something which otherwise is forbidden by Jewish law. There's something a bit dissatisfactory about that.
No, I've seen that the concept of a heterista,
right?
Because it was a few years ago. I've always had a sort of an interest in
an interest
in business, in Jewish business law for a number of years now. I started when I first started learning economics, which was at a relatively young age in comparison to many of my peers. I always found Jewish business law to be particularly interesting as well. So I many times I did ask my rabbi about it. We have
a recording, by the way, if you